Shalom to the elect of Israel. This is a reading lesson again, alright. The second book of the Maccabees, chapter 4. Alright, and I try to keep the commentaries on zero actually, alright, but maybe I comment on, some points, but I try to, just not to comment, okay? This Simon now, of whom we spake afore, having been a betrayer of the money and of his country, slandered Oneus if he had terrified Heliodorus, and been the worker of these evils. Thus was he told bold to call him a traitor that had deserved well of the city and tendered his own nation and was so zealous of the laws. But when the hatred went so far that by one of Simon's faction murders were committed, Onias, seeing the danger of this contention and that Apollonios, as being the governor of Seleucia and Phoenice, did wage and increase Simon's malice, he went to the king not to be an accuser of his countrymen, but seeking the good of all, both public and private. For he saw that it was impossible that the state should continue quiet, and Simon live his folly, unless the king did look thereunto. But after the death of Seleucus, when Antiochus called Epiphanes, took the kingdom, Jason, that brother of Onias, labored on the hand to be the high priest, promising unto the king by intercession 303 talents of silver and in order of revenue 80 talents. Beside this, he promised to assign 150 more. He might have license to set him up a place for exercise and for the training up of youth in the fashions of the heathen, and to write them of Jerusalem by the name of Antiochus, which when the king had granted and he had gotten into his hand the wool, he fortified, brought his own nation to Greekish fashion, and the royal privileges granted of special favor to the Jews by the means of John the father of Eupolemus, who went ambassador to Rome for amity and aid. He took away and putting down the governments which were according to the law, he brought up new customs against the law. For he built gladly a place of exercise under the tower itself, and brought the chief young men under his subjection, and made them wear a hat. Alright. Now such as was the high of Greek fashions and increase of heathenish manners, through the exceeding profaneness of Jason, that ungodly wretch, and no high priest, you see. You have this ungodly fashion today also, alright? And our people are pretty much, the the forerunner, alright, the trendsetter from a thing that's actually not trend, alright, but it's pretty much sin, alright, what will hunt you, alright, especially in these last days where we're in, you see, okay? So they really trendsetter to death, alright, because this is also a style of death, alright, wearing no beard, even when we have some place in the face where a beard would grow, alright, you actually, you cut it till you see no more, alright, that there would be actually a beard, when you let it grow, you see. So that's, that's really the style of death, alright, not keeping the Torah, alright, wearing the skinny jeans, alright, skinny like a bitch, alright, looking like a bitch, okay, wear skinny jeans, okay, like what, alright. You're not a woman, man, alright? So, wear clothes like you're a man, alright? Not a woman, okay? Because the Torah already said, alright, that, a woman should not wear something that is actually for a man, alright? And we also do not wear hats, alright, when we prophesy. Actually, alright, in the name of Yahweh Shai, you see. And, a man should not wear that belonged to a woman, okay? This is just simple law, okay? So you don't do that, okay? That the priests had no courage to serve anymore at the altar, but despising the temple and neglecting the sacrifices hastened to be partakers of the unlawful allowance in the place of exercise, after the game of discus called them forth, not setting by the honors of their fathers, but liking the glory of the Grecians best of all. All right. By reason whereof sore calamity came upon them, for they had them to be their enemies and avengers, whose custom they followed so earnestly, and unto whom they desired to be like in all things. All right. For it is not a light thing to do wickedly against the laws of God. You see, so you think, it's okay, to wear skinny jeans, even skinny jeans with mixed material, you see, because you also can't wear mixed material. All right, let's say you have 100% polyester, or cotton. All right, so you wear 100%, all right, without something else in it. All right. um it's not important at all right. you know it's not important to not eat swine's flesh. Some wicked Israelites also say that. All right. And actually, it is important, and actually, again, you will be hunted for that, all right? And he will judge you for that, all right? Because it's actually important, okay? It's important, okay? And if you don't know it, all right, you know, that's something different, all right? But if you know it, all right, it's sin unto you, okay? If you know it, but you do it, you still do it, then it's sin unto you, okay? Just to make it clear. So it's not a light thing, all right, to wear women's clothes, all right, for example, skinny jeans, all right, that are actually too skinny, or mixed fabrics, again, all right, or for a woman to wear man clothes, okay? Now, when the game that was used every fifth year was kept at Tyrus, the king being present, the ungracious Jason sent special messengers from Jerusalem, who were Antiochians, to carry 300 drums of silver to the sacrifice of Hercules, Sarak, which even the bearers thereof thought fit not to bestow upon the sacrifice, because it was not convenient, but to be reserved for other charges. This money then, in regard of the sender, was appointed to Hercules' sacrifice, but because of the bearers thereof, it was employed to the making of jellies. Now, when Apollonius, the son of Menetois, was sent into Egypt for the coronation of the king Ptolemaeus, Philometor Antiochus, understanding him not to be well affected to his affairs. All right, and you maybe know this name Hercules. All right, and if there were some person, all right, in time of the Romans, pretty much, all right, just the Greeks, whenever he lived, all right, it was a Israelite, of course, all right. If you read something about Hercules, his character, all right, being super strong, of course it's an Israelite, all right. You know, because I think there are actually stories of some guy that actually were called Hercules, and, that had actually power in these competitions, all right, you know. So, whereupon he came to Joppa, and from thence to Jerusalem, where he was honorably received of Jason and of the city, and was brought in with torch alight, and with great shoutings, and so afterward went with his host unto Fins. 2 years afterward, Jason sent Milios, the aforesaid Simon's brother, to bear the money unto the king, and to put him in the mind of certain necessary matters. But he being brought to the presence of the king, when he had magnified him for the glorious appearance of his power, got the price to himself, offering more than Jason by 300 talents of silver. So he came with the king's mandate, bringing nothing worthy the high priesthood, but having the fury of a cruel tyrant and the rage of a savage beast. Then Jason, who had undermined his own brother, being undermined by another, was compelled to flee into the country of the Ammonites, the Japanese so-called today. So Menelaus got the principality, but as for the money that he had promised unto the king, he took no good order for it, albeit Sostrates, the ruler of the castle, required it. For unto him appertained the gathering of the customs, wherefore they were both called before the king. Now Menelaus left his brother Lysimachus in his stead in the priesthood, and Sostratus left Crates, who was governor of the Cyprians. While those things were enduring, they of Tarsus and Malus made insurrection because they were given to the king's concubine, called Antiochus. Then came the king in all haste to appease matters, leaving Andronicus, a man in authority, for his deputy. Now Menelaus, supposing that he had gotten a convenient time, stole certain vessels of gold out of the temple and gave some of them to Andronicus, all right, and some he sold into Tyrus and the cities round about, which when Onias knew of a surety, he reproved him and withdrew himself into a sanctuary at Daphne, that lieth by Antiochia. Wherefore Menelaus, taking Andronicus apart, prayed him to get Onias into his hands, who being persuaded thereunto, and coming to Honorius in deceit, gave him his right hand with oaths, and thought he were suspected by him, yet persuaded he him to come forth of the sanctuary. Come forthwith he shut up without regard of justice, for the which cause not only the Jews, but many also of other nations took great indignation and were much grieved for the unjust murder of the man. And when the king was come again from the places about Cilicia, the Jews alright, that were in the city, and certain of the Greeks that abhorred the fact also, complained because Onias was slain without cause. Therefore Antiochus was hugely sorry, and moved to pity, and wept because of the sober and modest behavior of him that was dead. And being kindled with anger, fortified, he took away Andronicus, his purple, and went off his clothes, alright, and leading him to the whole city unto that very place where he had committed impiety against Onias. There slew he the cursed murderer. Thus the Lord rewarded him his punishment as he had deserved. Alright. Now when many sacrileges had been committed in the city by Lysimachus with the consent of Menelaus, and the fruit thereof was spread abroad, the multitude gathered themselves together against Lysimachus, many vessels of gold being already carried away, whereupon the common people, rising and being filled with rage, Lysimachus armed about 3,000 men and began first to offer valiance, one Auranus being the leader, a man foregone in years and no less in folly. They then seeing the attempt of Lysimachus, some of them caught stones, some clubs, other taking handfuls of dust that was next at hand, cast them all together upon Lysimachus and those that sat upon them. Thus many of them they wounded, and some they struck to the ground, and all of them they forced to flee. But as for the church robber, alright, himself, him that they killed beside the treasury, alright. Of these matters thereof there was an accusation laid against Menelaus. Now when the king came to Tyrus, 3 men that were sent from the senate pleaded the cause before him. But Menelaus, being now convicted, promised Ptolemy, the son of Diomedes, to give him much money if he would pacify the king toward him. Whereupon Ptolemy, taking the king aside into a certain gallery, as it were to take the air, brought him to be of other mind, alright, or an other mind, insomuch that he discharged Menelaus from the accusations, who, notwithstanding, was cause of all the mischief, and those poor men, who, if they had told their cause year before the Scythians, should have been judged innocent, them he committed to death. Thus they that followed the matter of the city and for the people and for the holy vessels did soon suffer unjust punishment. Wherefore, Even they of Tyrus, moved with hatred of that wicked deed, caused them to be honorably buried. And so, to the covetousness, right, of them that were of power, Melenos remained still in authority, increasing in malice and being a great traitor to the citizens. All right. Let's go to chapter 5. About the same time, Antiochus prepared his second voyage into Egypt, and then it happened that through all the city, for the space almost for 40 days, there were seen horsemen running in the air, in cloth of gold, and armed with lances like a band of soldiers, and troops of horsemen in array, uh, encountering and running one against another with shaking of shields and multitude of pikes, and throwing of swords, and casting of darts, and glittering of golden ornaments, and harness of all sorts. Wherefore every man prayed that the apparition might turn to good. Now when there was gone forth a false rumor, as thought Antiochus had been dead, Jason took at the least 1,000 men, and suddenly made an assault upon the city. And they that were upon the walls being put back, and the city at length taken, many lords fled into the castle. But Jason slew his own citizens without mercy, not considering that to get the day of them of his own nation would be a most unhappy day for him. Alright. But thinking they had been his enemies and not his countrymen whom he conquered. Howbeit for all this is he obtained not a principality, but at the last received shame for the reward of his treasure, and fled again into the country of the Ammonites. In the end thereof he had an unhappy return, being accused before Aretas, the king of the Arabians, fleeing from city to city, pursued of all men, hated as a forsaker of the laws, and being had in abomination as an open enemy of his country and countrymen, he was cast out into Egypt. Thus he had driven many out of their country, perished in a strange land, retiring to the Lacedaemonians, and thinking there to find succor by reason of his kindred. And he that had cast out many unburied had none to mourn for him, nor any solemn monuments at all, nor sculpture with his fathers. Now when this that was done came to the king's ear, he thought that Judea had revolved, whereupon removing out of Egypt in a furious mind, he took the city by force of arms, and commanded his men of war not to spare such as they met, and to slay such as went up to the houses, upon the houses. Thus was killing of young and old, making away of men, women, and children, slaying of virgins and infants. Alright, and they were destroyed within the space of 3 whole days, 40,000, whereof 40,000 men were slain in the conflict, and no fewer sold than slain. Yet was he not content with this, but presumed to go into the most holy temple of all the world, Menelaus, that traitor to the laws and to his own country, being his guide, and taking the holy vessels with polluted hands, and with profane hands pulling down the things that were dedicated by other kings to the augmentation and glory and honor of the place, he gave them away. And so haughty was Antiochus in mind, that he considered not that the Lord was angry for a while for the sins of them that dwelt in the city, and therefore his eye was not upon the place. Okay. For had they not been formerly wrapped in many sins, this man, as soon as he had come, had fortified, been searched, and put back from his presumption, as Heliodoros was, whom Seleucus the king sent to view the treasury. Nevertheless, God did not choose the people for the place's sake, but the place for the people's sake. And therefore the place itself that was partaker with them of the adversity that happened to the nation, did afterward communicate in the benefits sent from the Lord, Salak, and it, as it was forsaken in the wrath of the Almighty, so again the great Lord being reconciled, it was set up with all glory. So when Antiochus had carried out of the temple 1,800 talents, he departed in all haste unto Antiochia, weaning in his pride to make the land navigable and the sea passable, by fraud, such was haughtiness of his mind, the haughtiness of his mind, or haughtiness, or how you say, all right, of his mind. And he left governors to vex the nation at Jerusalem, Philip for his country of Phrygian, and for manners more barbarous than he that set him there, and at Garizim Andronicus, and besides Menelaus, who worse than all the rest bear on heavy hand over the citizens, having a malicious mind against his countrymen the Jews. He sent also the detestable ringleader Apollonius with an army of 220,000, commanding him to slay all those that were in their best age, and to sell the woman and the young a sword. So best age, you would say like 22, or better said 20, or 20 years old, but it goes down to 20, 25, pretty much, okay? According to the Torah, all right? Who coming to Jerusalem and pretending peace did forbear till the holy day of the Shabbat, when taking the Jews keeping holy day, he commanded his men to arm themselves. And so he slew all them that were gone to the celebrating of the Shabbat, and running to the city with weapons, slew great multitudes. But Judas Maccabees with 9 others were thereabout withdrew himself into the wilderness, and lived in the mountains after the manner of beasts, with his company, who fed on herbs continually, lest they should be partakers of the pollution. Okay, you see? Okay, so this is basically chapter 4 and 5. All right, and in the next video we will read the next chapters. All right, next two, I think. Okay. All right, and with that, Lord willing, all right, we'll see us in the next video. Shalom.